We've got the Funk Soul brother. Funk Soul. How's it going, man?
From Gender Neutral Pronoun London, where it's all going on, guys.
Yes, Gender Neutral Pronoun London. That's right. Yeah, I'm sure that one will come up in the show tonight. But hey, welcome back to the show. Funk Soul is a contributor at 21stCenturyWire.com and over here at Alternate Current Radio, everybody. And we're stoked to have him back on the show. Right, Spore?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, Funk Soul, hang back, and we'll kick off momentarily here. Also, joining us tonight, we have Randy J back with us, finally. All right, Randy J, another contributor over at 21 Wire and ACR. Randy J, what's up, man? Welcome back to the Boiler Room.
Good to be back. Let's talk some fake news and see what else is on everybody's mind tonight.
All right.
Good to be here.
Good to have you back, man. Welcome to the show. All right, and we have Jay Dyer and Jamie Hanshaw joining us as well tonight. How are you guys doing?
Rockin' awesome.
Rockin' awesome. Awesome, dude. I'm glad you guys are back for the show. It's been a while since we've had Jamie on. Jamie, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Yes, can't wait to get started. Okay, we got one more, and it's the lovely Spore. Lovely Spore, welcome back to the show. She's the host of Anarchy with Spore and the co-host over here at Boiler Room. How you doing tonight?
I am excellent. So great to be in such an awesome room with people.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we got a great room of people here tonight. Okay. All right, well, faders aren't working, so we're just going to put the hard stop on that one. All right, lovely Wonder Woman, let's break the ice.
Okay, so you guys maybe have already heard about this, but there was a baby from Canada that recently got their birth certificate issued without having put a gender on it. Under the spot that it said gender, it said the letter U, as in undecided. And the parent... I
can see her struggling with finding the correct words here. Go for it. You got it.
Well, Z...
Weapons free. Call him, her, whatever you want.
Z has gone through like a really serious court process to make it so that this baby did not have a gender put on their birth certificate. And it said, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time because I'm looking at the picture of the parent and it's clearly a female that has had, I don't know, a lot of hormones and there's like a large mustache and it identifies as a man.
Oh, I thought it was a dude identifying as a girl. I thought it was a dude looks like a lady situation. But it's the opposite. I can hardly tell anymore with all the hormone therapy they're handing out to all the weird degenerates.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
It's very strange. It's very strange. And the news is reporting it's a he, but I'm pretty sure that this person identifies as it identifies as a he, but was born as a female.
Okay.
And he says, or she says, when I was born, doctors looked at my genitals and made assumptions about who I would be, and those assignments followed me and followed my identification throughout my life.
Those nasty doctors, how dare they?
Yeah, so because doctors have been identifying gender by looking at genitals.
What?
Yeah, so this is...
Creeps.
This is offensive to certain people. And, I mean, me personally, who cares what is on somebody else's birth certificate? I mean, this has kind of been all over the news, and there's been like news reports in the Canadian news atmosphere. You know, they're doing surveys to see how many people think it's offensive to even have no gender put on a birth certificate. And then there are all these other people that think that there should be a spot for non-genders. And it's just, I mean, it's a whole bunch of ballyhoo, for lack of better words, over something ridiculous.
There are no better words than ballyhoo. Well, call me old-fashioned, you guys, but I think that identifying a baby by their genitals is A-okay.
I don't know where to begin.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Triggered.
I actually...
Is there any other way?
Sorry, Randy, let me just say this real quick. I actually disqualified this one last week because I was feeling a little surly before the show, and I thought I was going to break into some tirade about this one, but I'm really in a no fucks given mode tonight. So said, what the hell? Let's talk about this weird case right here. So essentially what they did was they petitioned to get a U on the birth certificate for
undecided.
Undecided.
Because the parent wants that being to be able to, when they're old enough to figure it out, to decide what gender they are.
Okay.
How confusing. I'm sorry. What a fucking nightmare. I can't imagine. I mean, being a child is confusing on its own, but I can't imagine being at the age of whatever they decide is okay for me to figure out what my gender is, and then have people, your parents be like, oh, well, what do you think you are?
Well, yeah, and I mean, Randy, we're seeing people push this on children. Like, I have a friend who took his 3-year-old to the doctor, and the doctor asked him if he was a boy or a girl. So, I mean, this you can see the issues that this might create for little ones.
Even adult ones.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing where you're not supposed to assume anybody's a man or a woman anymore. I'm sorry if somebody, because it's offensive to that person. If somebody came up to me and said, "Are you a man or a woman?" I'd be so offended. Like, I don't get it.
It's the new "how do you do" though.
Right.
I don't know what the actual percentage is. I've heard it before, but there are very rare kids. It's like
Hermaphrodites?
Yeah, they are born none of the above or all the above or something like that. And but it's ridiculous. It's like way less than even a percent. It's like a percentage of a percent.
It's like
really,
a 0.01% or something. It's really small.
Or smaller. Yeah, you're right. But excluding that, the outlier and looking at everything else, essentially 100%. You're in column A or you're in column B. I mean, that's kind of how that's how I've always seen it. It's a little simplistic, narrow-minded, racist, sexist, misogynist. A or B, you're male or female.
Oh, A or B. Got it. Sorry.
Yeah, you're either column A or you're column B. But anyways, that being said, if you go along with the logic of all of that, it's kind of like, well, why stop there? If you're allowing the people that say it's anything to have a logical, sort of viewpoint, why stop there? Why not let a human being choose to be a dog? Well, no, I'm a dog.
Yeah, maybe U stands for unicorn. It doesn't even have to be a real animal.
No, I mean it's ridiculous. If you're born a male or if you're born a female, and you have on your birth certificate, undecided, and later on you choose, which sex because you can medically do it. Well, we've seen another guy medically and visually make himself into an elf. So why do you even need to be human, right? So, I mean, it's nuts.
Absolutely.
I really don't care what anybody does. Everybody else's life, it's their own lives. I don't care if people feel that they are one thing or another, but I feel like subjecting a child like through their their childhood, by putting this pressure on them of having to decide what their sex is.
Yeah, if you're going to lie to kids, you should go with the gold standards. There's a bunny that craps chocolate, and there's a fat guy that comes down the chimney. Like, you should stop the lies right there. Like, I think those are the acceptable amount of lies to children, and they're not necessarily like sexual child abuse like this garbage is.
Yeah, and the other thing is, from what I understand, there's a percentage of people that are like hermaphrodites. They've got both sexes down there happening. And then there are people that just completely identify as another sex. But this isn't the case for this baby. It's one sex or the other. And this person that's raising this child is subjecting these, worldviews that are based off of some, traumatized childhood. And they're going to bring up their child with that same perspective.
Right. Okay, springing off of that one, Spore, I want to hear from Jay and Jamie here, because children are like putty. They're like clay. They'll take on, almost any concepts that their parents or guardians put in front of them. So am I going too far by calling this a form of child abuse?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's a sign of total loss of society losing its mind, and it's all by design. It's 100% social engineering. It's planned. I'm reading Daniel Esselin's Tavistock Institute book right now, and it talks about all the same stuff. In fact, in 1974, the Tavistock Institute already knew that there would be libertarian and anarcho movements that would be popular in the future. They planned for that. They knew that the 60s revolution would spawn all of this. That is the Beatles, free love and all that. It was all planned. They knew this would happen, and they even predict social justice warriors and the confusion of genders. So it's all by design. But people get what they want. So if you choose to believe lies and delusion, this is the fruits of your actions. You know what I mean? I mean, you get what you want. Right. So if you are mentally ill and you're going to screw up your children's lives, that's unfortunately the power that parents have. They do have that ability to screw up children. And I mean, it's just a sign of people losing their minds.
Yeah, I think that's an important point there, Jay. A lot of people think when, maybe new people coming across this show would think, well, these guys are just, conservative, right-wing weirdos with their biblical views, but that's not the case here. I mean, these are plans that have been set in motion decades ago.
Look at the document Changing Images of Man. That's a 1974 Stanford Research Institute document on the stuff that we're talking about, how society would be engineered in a certain direction. And it lists about 10 or 15 expectations that they have for the future. And 2 or 3 of those relate to the confusion of gender and messing boys and girls up by design.
Definitely. Okay, I'll link that on tonight's show page so people can check it out. And if you're out there listening live tonight, Google that. Get yourself a set of notes. Don't have to take it from us. These things are out there. You can verify everything that Jay is saying by looking it up. It's not out of reach, and that is why these sorts of viewpoints, in my opinion, are people either doubling down on them or they're forsaking them. And I know that most of our listeners are forsaking these sorts of PC bro bullcrap.
Can we ask Jamie what she thinks? She's a girl. What does Jamie think?
Definitely.
Because I recently had a conversation with a 12-year-old, and she was schooling an entire room of adults about the difference between transgender and bisexuality and LGBTQ or whatever that is. And she ended on pansexuality, and all the adults were just like, what is this stuff? And she knew the definition, she knew the preference, she knew everything about it, and she was only 12 years old, and I was getting really angry actually at the smugness of this 12-year-old because she thought she knew everything about the world and how it works, and that she had one over on all these adults who were just slow.
Oh my God.
She's probably a follower of Bill Nye.
And where did she learn this?
It was just for public school education, but they're teaching these kids that this is how the world is, and your parents are just fuddy-duddies, and they don't know what reality is like. In the future, it's going to be worse. Like you said, you're going to have to actually pick your own species, too, because people are going to be wanting to mix in their DNA with the different animals that they want to be.
Ugh, that's so gross. And don't you think that's going to cause, like, looking into the future a little bit with a kid like that? I mean, with kids and adults, especially a 12-year-old, not quite a teenager yet, but as they move into those teenage years, it becomes really hard for kids, teenagers, and young adults to not feel like, they want to rebel against their parents, and their parents are old and they just don't understand the new ways. But, and that's been sort of just like a natural thing for a long time. But when you get down to like brainwashing little kids in school into fundamental things, lifestyle, human nature sort of things, it seems to me that can cause a more fundamental disconnect and break between the parent and the child during those teenage years when they really need a strong parent to keep them from falling into, bad habits and bad pitfalls. I mean, what do you think about that, Jamie? Are parents who are allowing this and being slow about it, just setting themselves up for a really difficult teenage parenting experience?
Well, that's part of the conspiracy, is that even adults right now are in a sort of arrested development childhood phase, and nobody is willing to actually grow up and say, I am an adult, I am a grown-up, I do know what I know.
Yeah. And
it was really surreal because as far as I knew a couple years ago, I was one of the first people to say that be on the lookout for people talking about pansexuality, because it is all part of the Aeon of Horus, and their hidden god is Pan. And I predicted this, and then it came out of her mouth, and I was just sitting there like, I can't believe this is happening.
Can I list some of the? I don't mean to cut you off, Funk Soul, just real quick. This is pretty amazing because this is the 1974 Stanford research paper, Changing Images of Man. This is what they predict to be emerging trends in the future. You ready?
Hit us.
Youth involvement in politics. So they felt like there would be a lot of reaction and alternative media involvement, perhaps. Women's liberation and feminism. Youth rebellion against perceived wrongs. There's your social justice warriors.
Wow.
Emerging interests in social responsibilities. Generation gap implying a changing paradigm. There's your youth are smarter than the parents. Experimentations with new family structures and interpersonal relationships. New genders.
Yeah.
The emergence.
All of that Modern Family show, which has been very popular over the last 7 years or so.
The emergence of communes as alternative lifestyles, a surge in interest in Eastern philosophies, increasing importance of New Age crap. So, yeah, I mean, this, it doesn't call it New Age crap, but this is funny. It says, this report was published in 1974. In retrospect, how many of these hideous inhuman forms have become accepted now as mainstream? Each and every one of them. Investigative journalists Crichton Zoakos called this countercultural zombieism.
Wow. So
they already knew back then that there would be these countercultural zombies, all these people who think that they woke. I'm so woke right now.
Hella woke, dude. Woke AF. Wow.
Woke AF zombies. Woke as fuck zombies.
Woke AF zombies. I think we just coined the show title tonight. That's frightening, dude. Every single one of those bullet points is now here, just being blasted in the faces of children's and moms and grandmas everywhere.
You had Jamie mentioning how she sort of saw that coming with the case of the little girl talking about, what was it, pan? See, I'm not even hip to the term. There's proof right there.
Pansexual.
There you go. There's proof right there. The adult's not hip to the term. So it's got the girl talking about pansexual, and then you got the Rand report predicting the future. I would venture to say, everybody on this call right now sees no slowing down. I mean, it's pedal to the metal with all that type of propaganda and ideology. I don't know if Pandora's box has been opened, or if this thing could U-turn, or if there could be some sort of addendums, or even just the freedom to live how someone wants instead of having all of this shoved down people's throats.
Right.
You will be tolerant, or else. That whole line of thought.
Right. The PC police effect.
Yeah. Did any of you guys see the vegan crew that was out harassing the fishermen on the side of a river?
No, what happened?
It was just like this thing where it's like, they've got these certain values, and they went out, and it was like a family, like a mother, father, and a couple of kids, and they went out, and the father just started yelling at these two fishermen that are out there fishing in a legal area, just chilling out in the middle of the day, fishing. One of the guys pulled a fish out of the water and put it on the ground, and it was still alive, and this dude just flipped out. I mean, they had to call the cops. It was like, he's yelling at him saying, you're killing animals, this is violence. They had a few other people come join him and start like a mini protest. It was
seriously.
It was insane.
This reminds me, okay, first of all, that makes me that
Scientology.
Yeah, exactly. It verifies what we've noted a couple times on the show now, which is that protesting can now be seen as like a social service, a family outing. There's like all these brownie points now, these social justice brownie points for like protesting, even if it's among violent protesters or doing violent protest, as long as it's from that social justice PC retarded leftist platform. So now, but when I see people doing stuff like that to kids, like you're projecting something at your kid right there. Now, Funk Soul, you'd probably agree with this. That person is projecting they're by example. They're leading by example by using, hatred against it's not even a group to protest. Like no one protests fishermen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like...
Well, and the parents were yelling at, this is for the kids, and God intended you to only eat fruits and herbs. I mean, he was reciting...
Oh, they believe in God? I'm surprised. Sound like more godless folk to me.
Well, they were reciting the Bible, and...
that's a strange hybrid
just
protester.
Using, choice words, whatever ones fit their little moment.
The same Tavistock book that Estelin wrote, one of the first things he talks about in the first chapter is two key characters who were formative at the beginning of the formation of the Tavistock Institute, and that's Dr. Rees and Dr. Kurt Lewin. Now, Dr. Kurt Lewin is one of the most famous psychologists, and he's the inventor of social psychology, social dynamics type stuff, teamwork, groupthink. And one of the first projects that Dr. Kurt Lewin worked on at Tavistock was utilizing groupthink in order to change food preferences away from meat towards bread as a substitute. What? So here, the Tavistock Institute back in the 40s was already planning on how to transition people out of meat eating. And by the way, Alvin Toffler in his big globalist books, he says that in the future, anarchism will be linked with veganism and vegetarianism, and it'll all be under the guise of the green agenda and that you hurt the earth by eating animals. And all of these libertarian anarcho-idiots out there who have been duped, they're all buying into this in their stupidity, thinking that they are individual thinkers, and they're such precious individuals, they're so rational and logical, and they're all buying wholesale into this bullshit from Tavistock Institute that is social engineering them with groupthink.
Oh, wow. Bam.
Yeah.
Wow, 1940s. They're already planning that stuff.
That's crazy.
And here we see it. Like, if you had enough libertarian and anarcho friends on your Facebook feed, you can just see that stuff dripping out of that feed. What do you think, Funk Soul?
Well, this is Jay perfectly put it. The groupthink. There's a lot of monkey see, monkey do, and not integrating with the grey matter that's in between our shoulders. I'm sure you guys would agree that people are really not just able to think for themselves anymore. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the most frustrating things that we're talking about here. But going back to that vegan shrilling, screeching episode that you were talking about with Sporehesher, I have a friend who is currently vegan, but he went through this spell of, if you had meat or if you had dairy, anywhere near him, he would get like completely triggered. He would become someone so different and would start spouting like all this crap at you and would get like really, really aggressive. I mean, this whole thing reminds me of as I just kind of commented a few moments ago, it reminds me of this, I just said Scientology. It reminded me of the harassment that you see, this groupthink harassment that happens when people break away from the Scientology cult. The way people get aggressively harassed by that. So I really do feel that, yes, like there is a heck of a lot to what Jay is saying regarding the Tavistock, Institute, which really is central to this. I mean, one of the most important messages I feel that Jay is also relaying here to us in a way is study these people, quintessentially know thy enemy. Knowledge is certainly power in this case.
Absolutely. Jamie, what do you think? Is this divide going to get any better? Because like I was saying earlier in the show, it feels like people are either doubling down or they're digging their heels in. You know what I mean? Like, people are forsaking this kind of stuff as they make these discoveries that we were just talking about here, you know, like what Jay was just telling us from the Tavistock Institute. What do you see coming? Like, where is this all heading? I mean, with the regressive side just continually doubling down, and the rest of, I suppose there's a middle ground there too, you know, of course, but then the people that are fully cued into, you know, the social engineering and the planning behind it, like, what are we looking at, you know, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? Are we still going to be in this battle, or what do you think we can expect?
Well, as far as the veganism, I think they're going to use the excuse about overpopulation. People need to cut back on their consuming of meat and other resources, and then they're going to, I think they're going to push something like Soylent Green, like euthanizing people and making it okay to be a cannibal if you want to be. And I think they're trying to push it in a direction that animals are going to have the same kind of rights as people, because they view us all as the same kind of animal anyway. And then, like we were saying before, you know, the trans species movement, and this is where you see what they're doing now with the furries and dressing up and living your life as a pony or a fox, or being sexually attracted to animals. And so you've got the bestiality, and then the whole mixing of DNAs and choosing what species you are. So you're going to come out and they're going to say it's a human boy, and they're going to say, you bigot. Wait till they decide what they are, and then they'll grow up and be like, I'm a human boy.
Yeah, and all these TV shows. Jamie was talking about this, 3-4 years ago, was talking about how they're going to promote cannibalism and human sacrifice. And I thought that was a bit much. I was like, I don't know about all that. But then you're actually seeing all these TV shows, literally, and movies, big ones, by the way, promoting cannibalism. And I think eventually we're going to see this kind of stuff. It sounds crazy. What? There's no way. How could that ever be? But who would have ever thought we would have 60 genders?
Yeah, no kidding. You know, it strikes me that, like, a year and a half ago, or I don't know how long ago, but we were talking about, you know, furries and bronies, and, you know, it was a little bit more lighthearted at the time, but now it's kind of getting a little bit weird. It's getting a little too visceral, a little too close to reality with, you know, it's been escalated to cloppers and, you know, this whole pansexual thing. It's
Explain to Jamie what a clopper is.
Oh, so a clopper is sort of like a brony, except they take it into the sexual zone. So they're people who have a sexual preference for, is it horses or people dressed up like horses? I don't remember exactly. Spore might have to weigh in on this one.
See, I'm just an old lady, so I don't know all these.
I know, we're all fuddy-duddies right now. None of us are even in our 50s yet. This is getting ridiculous.
I think we're looking at, the best way to understand all this is one giant crazy cult. It's one giant death cult. And you have to go insane to join this cult. I'm serious.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's almost, but it's like a splintered death cult. Like, they can't even agree amongst each other anymore on anything except that they don't like us that aren't in the cult. Like, they can't figure out how to get together and, you know, write the rule book amongst themselves. They just know
it changes every day.
Right. Yeah, you got to have this like Rubik's Cube sort of decoder thing going on to even follow it.
You also need like that greater than or less than, like, mathematical equation. Like, they'll contradict themselves, but then they will take one movement over another one. Like the vegan thing, you know, a lot of the people that are like hard into that are probably like Native peoples, man, Native Americans, man, and all of that, which is great. God bless them. But then they turn around and say, well, vegan stuff, well, tribal cultures to this day are big meat eaters and shamelessly so. I mean, it's part of their culture, you know, deer hunting or the tribes in Africa and all that. So all the people that they're like, their rights, man, great, that's good. I'm not saying it's bad. But then they like subvert that in favor of, well, but, you know, can't eat meat, bro. You know what I mean? So it just makes them.
Right.
They're inconsistent. And that's just one tiny example of many things that they're just, you know, well, this is a bigger sin than that, so now that's not okay. Or I don't know, it's trending, it's trending to like something or not like something. So it's, I don't know, it's very fluid when there's no right or wrong.
Yeah. Randy sounds like he's calling in from a pineapple under the sea. He's like Randy Squarepants on the other line here. But you're right, Randy. And now, Funksoul, this kind of what he just said also reminds me of how we've got feminists out there that, like Clarissa Ward, for example, of CNN, who will go and somehow magically embed herself in the Middle East with, like, al-Nusra, beheaders, essentially, for the uninitiated, people actually practicing Sharia law, and talk about the rights of these sorts of people who, when they're off camera, are beating women, stoning them to death, killing gays, stuff like that. So it's like, that really, what Randy said really rings true to me, because we see that on almost every level.
It's crazy stuff, man. I just wanted to dovetail a little bit back to what we were talking about there. I mean, if I was to do any kind of projection with this, also connected back to Jay and Jamie with the overall subject matter, we're going to have a lot of broken people within the next 15 to 20 years, a lot of psychologically broken children and young adults as a result of this cultish type of behavior that is occurring. I do feel that there is a strong possibility of a fallout as a result of this. I mean, look at the millennials that we've got now. This could be in the next 15 to 20 years. It could be like millennials on roids. It could be that bad. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about this evening, isn't this a kind of a divisory strategy that Huxley talked about in Brave New World? And I mean, it also reminded me of, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the chat, I mean, was it the Jesuits that said about, give me a child before the age of between, 3 and 5, and, I'll be able to formulate their mind. I will be able to shape them. It's quite, I mean, a lot of what we're talking about, it is that borderline black pill, wicked, chilling stuff. And it even occurred to me as you guys were chatting there just before you got to the Clarissa Ward part, Hesher, that I think it was Jay mentioned about this cultish type of behavior, and it just popped into my head. I was like, wow, is this a nouveau type of like children of God scenario, but kind of like a lot more diverse, where we have this increasingly social acceptance of outright degeneracy, and also on top of that, you guys talked about, the cannibalism on, like on live TV. We're getting towards this sort of like crazy behavior. Didn't a reporter from one of the MSN networks like do that with the tribe at some point? Like last year, he sat with this particular like offset Indian tribe, and apparently he tasted human flesh. I do remember seeing something about that in the news. That was pretty crazy stuff. I can't remember this guy's name. He's a very well known name, but again, that just bounced into my mind while you guys were chatting about it.
Well, all these movies deal with that. We Are What We Eat, the Eli Roth movies, Hostel. Yeah, you're getting these themes of hunting people and eating people, and all the zombie movies really have that kind of same idea at work. I'm not trying to be overly puritanical, like you can't ever present this stuff in a fictional form, but I'm saying that I think there's some new series, Netflix or something, about cannibals, a family of cannibals who they're vegan and then they start eating humans, and then they decide they like meat when they start eating humans, and just really bizarre, sick stuff that a lot of times in social engineering they introduce stuff under the guise of comedy and entertainment. So you can really warm people up to ideas through what seems innocuous, like comedy, like Will and Grace has the gay guy, and then that's the first prominent gay character, in a major sitcom. And then, here we are 15, 20 years later, and we're discussing, pansexuality, bestiality, child sex, all this stuff is attempting to be normalized. And in fact, in the Tavistock book that I've been reading here, they also list other strategies and plans, one of which is to induce mania, to literally induce madness and mania amongst the population. And I think that's what we're looking at.
We're in it. Yeah.
It's working.
Wow.
It is working, man. I can see it when I go to town. It's definitely working. That mania, that death cult.
It might sound sexy, but it's not, because the real death cult is, we were watching this show. Oh my gosh. Do not ever watch My 600-Pound Life. I don't watch TV, but I happened to catch this TLC show called My 600-Pound Life. And they had a dude from not far from where I live. And it was probably the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm not joking. It was literally the grossest thing I've ever seen in my life. The guy got up to be 800 pounds.
Oh my God.
And so when we talk about the death cult, it's not Elizabeth Hurley dressed up as the devil. It's not, cheerleaders and sexy stuff. The real death cult is 800-pound dudes and women with beards, the bearded woman at the circus, and eating people, and it's these, it's Trigglypuff. That's the death cult. It's not sexy and beautiful.
Yeah, it is not beautiful.
Snopes.
Yeah, we were in a grocery store
Oh my gosh.
a week ago, and I'm not even kidding you. We witnessed this. We were in the grocery store. It was like 11:30 at night. There were only 2 lanes open, and one of them, lane number 1, had like 4 people that had full carts, like packed to the brim. Lane number 2 had everybody else. There was probably 20 people in lane number 2. And then lane number 3 had this woman who must have been 500 pounds. Maybe I'm being generous there.
I think she's, around there.
Somewhere between, it's so hard for me to guess when it gets above a certain point, somewhere between 400 and 700 pounds. And she had 5 shopping carts. Were there 5?
There was at least, it seemed like they kept coming, actually. It was really weird because we walked in. She was already at the front cash register with her carts. And it seemed like more carts kept coming. And there was like,
was there like a train conductor on the front?
There was like one dude that was like, he was like, kind of like a fiddle guy that was like moving all the stuff. And
she should tip the people that work there. Holy smokes.
It was amazing, man. I've never seen anything like it. No, she wasn't on a scooter. Somehow she was still on 2 legs.
She was looking at her food.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So did you know that the fire department has to come move these people, the ones that are bedridden?
Oh, yeah. They have to take walls down and stuff, right?
I didn't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really awful. From my perspective, there's a huge amount of abuse going on here. There's the abuse that this person is taking on themselves, where they're just overfeeding and they're, feeding their omentum or whatever it is, that creature inside them that craves all this disgusting food. And then there are people that deliver the food to them. And
so you must have watched My 600-Pound Life, and you know about the enablers.
I haven't actually seen that, but there are people that are delivering them food, and we'll give them a sponge bath every now and then, and it's really a really sad thing. These people are dying.
Randy, I think Randy's throwing up in the background.
I'm telling you, I'm not joking. I've watched all kinds of horror movies. I've seen all kinds of weird things. And I've never been as grossed out as I have watching the episode with the dude from Kentucky named James, who got to be 800 pounds. And within 10 minutes of the show, he shits himself, and they show it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
That's not the gross part. Now, that's gross. That's not the gross part.
Come on,
the gross
guys.
part is that his ankle is about a foot larger than it should be, and it was covered in yellow pus boils.
Oh, no.
Come on.
And I literally gagged when I saw this. I am not joking. I've never seen anything on a movie or TV show literally make me gag. I am not kidding.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I've pretty much seen, up until 2 Girls, 1 Cup, I was the type of person that would say, I've seen it all. When that happened, I refused to watch. I sort of changed. I was like, okay, I've aged, and I'm now no longer the guy that's seen every gross thing, and I don't want to see the one-upmanship from here on forward. But
James's leg tops that cup thing.
It sounds like it.
Wait, so
he's
what
worse
channel
looking
was that
than-
on, though?
TLC, My 600-Pound Life.
Wow, TLC on
what does that stand
that's standard.
The learning.
The Learning Channel.
The Learning Channel is showing that.
Ugh.
That is.
Well, you're going to learn.
The languishing chode is what it
You'll
should
learn the
stand
hard
for.
way.
Just keep saying Jim Henson, Jim Henson. You know?
You're going to learn the hard way.
Oh,
This guy sounds like a real life Baron Harkonnen, just fatter and disgusting.
He's worse than Baron Harkonnen, yeah.
oh yeah, amazing. Okay, so now that we've gone into that particular death cult in the shopping mall of regressive horror, go Spore.
Oh, I
You were
just
gonna
wanted to
something.
say, in regards to that story in which we encountered this woman that had so many carts that it took about 25 minutes, and she was still checking out while we were going, and I checked the cash register as we were walking out, and as she was still putting stuff on the
Still like 3 more carts probably to unload, filled to the brim.
It was at $567.
And there were cops waiting outside. I have no idea who called the cops, or like if they're there to maybe give her an escort home with a dump truck load of the entire grocery store. I don't know. It was really bizarre, though. I mean, she was checking out when we got there. We shopped for a while. She was still checking out when we left after waiting in a line with about 20 people. I mean, it was mayhem up in there. And while we were there so long, you tend to kind of start studying all the people around you, and it was not pleasant. Like, something about that crowd in there, I was just thinking, man, if this turned into like a shit hit the fan moment or something like that, and the lights all went off and the doors shut and locked, this would be the worst place on the planet to be.
No, it was like these people.
Could you imagine if it, like Cormac McCarthy and The Road, and it turns into The Road?
Yeah.
And then your worst nightmare scenario, you get captured by a bunch of these goblin people at Walmart, and then they take you and they offer you to James from the Learning Channel, and he eats you for dinner, and it's a giant religious cult.
I can picture it like really vividly.
Unfortunately,
James is their god.
I can do a good James, by the way, because he's from the South, and he's like, hey, maybe you didn't give me enough biscuits. I asked for 4 biscuits. I asked for 4. You brought me 3. Where's the other? So then she goes out to McDonald's and she gets him a giant bacon cheeseburger, and she puts it on his stomach for him. And he reaches over and it's got the wrapper on it, and he touches the wrapper and goes, "Take the wrapper off of it." He has the energy to touch the wrapper to point to it, but he tells his, quote, caregiver to take the wrapper off. This guy's something else.
No way.
Wow.
Are you serious? Is this person just like very rich and can they just pay for somebody
Hell
to
no,
feed
he
them?
ain't
He's in a
rich.
trailer.
He's in a big-ass trailer. How does
he get a caretaker? I want a caretaker. I want somebody to
you
take
should
my
hear the
wrappers
love
off.
story. There's a love story as to how he got this caretaker.
Oh.
Sweet Lord.
Now I want to see it.
I'm gonna tell you what.
Now I want to see it. I just don't want to see the part you were
Go
talking.
find this episode if you want to see the craziest shit you've ever seen. Find the Learning Channel, My 600-Pound Life, and watch the James from Kentucky episode.
Oh my.
Will do.
Oh, that's one of the scariest J suggestions ever on the Boiler Room.
You will be traumatized.
They had to refinance a house so they could get enough money to put him in a moving van.
Oh my god.
He spent this $10,000 to go to Houston to go to this special fat doctor. The fat doctor told him that if he got under 600 pounds, he could be operated on. And so within 2 months, he went from like 650 to 850.
What?
Oh.
Well, first he went down by following the diet.
For like a month, yeah.
And I was amazed how you could just lose 50 pounds by laying in bed and not stuffing yourself. Right?
Oh
Your body's trying to correct what you've done to it if you just give it the right things, but then he kept on slipping, and then fast food and Chinese food, and he couldn't make it.
Giant jugs of whatever that shit, like Bubba Cola that you get in the South. You know what I'm talking
Big
about?
Red?
No, it's worse than Big Red.
Hey, did that lady with all the carts have a cart full of soda pop?
Oh yeah, there was a cart for every row, I think. I think she was just sending the employees to like, go to aisle 7 and just put everything in this cart. I don't know what was going on there. I mean, she had 3-4 employees helping her. It was bananas. Never seen
horror
anything
movie,
like
man.
it. Yeah, I know. It was like really sad, but at the same time,
It's really sad because they're actually starving because the food they're eating has no nutrients in it and
Exactly.
doesn't. Your body does not signal that it's full or satiated, and so they just keep on eating and eating.
exactly.
And here's another point I was going to make about the whole acceptance, like body acceptance and fat acceptance and loving yourself and all that. That is not love. That is abusing yourself. Accepting yourself at that point in your life is not loving yourself.
Right.
Is it?
Well, you're killing yourself. I mean, essentially, you're killing your body, the thing that carries your soul. And it's for some reason in the media being put out in some sort of fashion that you're pretty unsexy for doing so.
It's all reverse speech, right, Funk?
This is the point where I get a little bit annoyed by, there's a lot of great popular psychology, self-help books out there that people, they get a lot of great information and advice and, action from their life. But, a couple of names that spring to mind, like Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle as well, accepting, what is in the present moment, putting mindfulness and whatnot to one side. It's like these people clearly need to take action in their lives. There is no accepting what is right now. It's like, if you accept what is right now, dude, you are going to die.
The doctors talk to him like that, too.
Oh, they tell him straight up. He's killing himself.
And the doctor's like, who's the enabler? Whose fault is this? And the lady's like, well, he asks for it.
Okay, all right.
He wants it. And the doctor's like, well, no. This is pretty much all your fault now because he can't even move.
No, if you were that guy's sister or something like that, you would want to sue the enabler. I mean, that's like it's like an assisted suicide by someone who's not Dr. Kevorkian.
Well, and then we were wondering maybe they just get past a certain point where they want them to die because they don't want to be their caretaker and it's already too far gone and it's not like they're ever going to get better, so they just keep feeding the beast until it pops and then they can wash their hands.
Man,
That's dark.
Randy
That's
J, are
dark.
you okay back there? I think I heard you vomiting last and I haven't heard from you since. You all right? You with us?
Yeah, I'm also thinking of how, back to the subject right before this, where Jamie mentioned Soylent Green and cannibalism. There's almost like this, and then now there's this, growing vegan, don't hurt the animals sort of sentiment, which I have no problem with if it's sort of like a person actually choosing that road, on their own instead of it being sort of like propagandized into their head. But there's a lot of industry that's getting on board with making fake meat, and I know that's a turnoff to a lot of people, but I mean, fake meat, fake protein, to me it is growing a little bit as an industry. There's money to be made there the more people that do go vegan, etc., and that industry could grow. But there's a company in the top 50, it's already in Walmart, Target, and a bunch of other places, in the top 50, businesses of the future in 2017, according to somebody or another. But anyways, that's a growing industry, and I think it, no pun intended, feeds into the whole future of, maybe not literally Soylent Green, but who knows, how do we get where we are today without a whole bunch of yesterdays that no one saw coming if you ask someone 20 years ago.
So what do you mean by fake meat for vegans?
It's not fake meat for vegans. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. It's just
non-meat products, like a lot of
chicken.
soy ones.
Like you could have a chicken burger that looks and tastes close to chicken, similar to chicken, but it ain't chicken. It's just protein made into that.
Yeah, they've been making that for years. I was vegetarian for 14 years, and I lived off of that stuff, like the fake chicken patties, fake chicken nuggets, Boca burgers, all those meatless sausages. I lived off of that stuff. I mean, it was like, because you crave protein. You do. Yeah. And I mean, and it was ridiculous of me because, I just didn't know as much at that point in time, where it was like, I just felt like it was more important for me not to eat meat and to have like a plant-based diet, and I had no idea that there was anything wrong with soy, and a lot of that stuff is made out of soy, which is, it's not good for you.
GMO soy, most of it, and will add estrogen to your chemical mix up that you don't need.
Has everybody seen the Plandopolis video?
I haven't.
I don't know if I have. What is it?
Okay, everybody needs to see that. Just Google Plandopolis, and it's a UK think tank that is laying out what's going to be the case in 20, 25 years. PLANNED, Plandopolis, as in Managerial Control Society, and they talk about replacing meat with all these kinds of things, and that you're going to have the city's run by a smart city, all this kind of crap, and then you get meat once a year on your birthday.
Whoa.
So all this stuff again is by design. It's all in Tavistock planning. It's all in, all these big, and by the way, Tavistock is not a government thing that's against corporations. They all work together. It's a private public monstrosity that runs all these things. So all these companies are in on this. And yes, I've seen what you're talking about, Randy, because I get organic food all the time, and you go in there now and they're really trying to push these synthetic meat products in all kinds of new formats. So yeah, they've had this stuff for a long time, but because of the rising popularity of veganism and vegetarianism, they're intentionally doing this to socially engineer people into thinking that it's basically a guilt trip. All of this stuff is a guilt trip. That's what Tavistock talked about, was making people feel bad for existing, feel bad for who they were, feel bad for eating meat, feel bad for smoking tobacco. You got to feel bad for all this stuff so that the establishment can say, time for you to accept austerity, time for you to live in a coffin-sized apartment above a Target.
Exactly.
I'm not kidding.
It's crazy.
No,
man.
it's that's the thing, man. I mean, when it's all guilt based, every single one of these social engineering things, you can trace them all back to that, and it's just I can smell that programming my entire life. My whole 40 plus years of existence on this planet. I can look at any age in my life and think about some topic or something that I was supposed to feel guilty about, and it's always something societal or human nature or something that when you look back on it now with what we've learned tonight here on Boiler Room 117, it's like, oh, okay, some asshole planned it. They planned for me to feel guilty about this when I was 8 years old. They wanted me to throw my mom's Aquanet away and tell her she was putting a hole in the sky, that kind of crap. The whole dinosaurs are fuel. Oh, you're going to use up all the dinosaurs by driving cars. What a joke. Straight out of Tavistock, yo. All right. Funk Soul, you were about to jump in there, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, it's absolutely fine. It's just on the back end of what Jay is saying. Again, I mean, one of the most chilling things about Tavistock is that, well, number one, I'm living in the bloody midst of it here in London with the Tavistock Institute. I know it very well. I've done quite a bit of research about it myself, not to the amount that Jay and Jamie have done with the book. I've really got to get on that. I'm so going to get that book to study, but it's just seen its ramifications, its effects, rolling out right now in real time, just as you guys were talking about, that I can match up so many things in my mind regarding other people I would know. I would have good relationships with friends and whatnot, and their behavior, not just online, but offline. Another example would be the PATA organization. This organization is one of the major organizations which sticks up for animals, PETA. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. I've got some friends, and they had this Facebook kerfuffle happening not so long ago where I was in the midst of it before I got off the bloody thing, where bullfighting, let's face it, it's a horrible bloody thing, and it should be banned, yada yada yada. But these people who were friends of mine who were expecting a child, literally within weeks, were just off their heads with the commentary on social media saying that, these bullfighters, these people who have anything to say about it, they should just all die. That bullfighter there who's just been indoctrinated and whatnot, these human beings, they just have to die, and I really just have to take a step back and a lot of deep breaths to kind of go, whoa, hold on a second, guys. Let's get a bit of logos in here. This is pretty crazy, but it's just what you guys said. I'm just matching this up, and I'm just seeing this triggery type of behavior that is being described by what Jay said regarding Tavistock happening all around me, within family and within friends as well. And it's like, it's one of those situations you kind of feel like, you're like, wow, man, am I going mad? No, I'm not. It's only when you're told that, yeah, it has been planned and projected for many, many years. And the timing right now, it seems to be more than impeccable. Those clever bastards, you know?
Yep. And it's not just Tavistock. I mean, geez, Jay's got a great library on his website of, different foundations and, all the different inputs from foundations and think tanks. And it's amazing when you put it all together, it's such an important piece of understanding the context of your reality. If you want to be a person of knowledge in this day and age, in 2017, you have to have a good handle on, a decent handle at least, on history and how you've been lied to about history. And then once you get there, you can kind of start along the way, you can read these documents from these think tanks and foundations and institutes and NGOs, and, it adds to the context, and you're able to then understand the context of your time, and if you can read all the stuff you want, but if you don't understand that stuff, then you're really kind of at a disadvantage, a huge disadvantage.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just to very quickly jump in that, like, I have to pinch myself, you guys. I have to pinch myself at times and check myself and kind of go, am I going mad? What's going on in my particular personal paradigm with all of that? But again, when we're constantly reminded, by guests such as Jay and Jamie talking about this stuff, it's like, no, guys, it's like, you're not going mad. They've been working on this stuff for a long time. It's quite refreshing to hear that it's come from somewhere. But I've found myself many a time kind of going, I'm checking my programming here. Am I okay? Do you get what I mean? Do you get what I'm talking about?
Right. Yeah. The have I gone mad? The am I going insane for thinking this? Like, or people are looking at me like I'm mad for bringing this up. So, that's why this has been such a great adventure, doing Boiler Room, and knowing Jay and everyone, all the listeners and all the guests, everyone that's been on, they've all thrown stuff into this, and it's just built this huge mountain of context underneath us as we move forward and, sort of examine the topical stuff of the week, which we often do. But like getting to these foundations is really critical, I mean, it really struck me when Brzezinski died, and Jay, when you were on Sunday Wire, I mean, you did an excellent breakdown on that, and it's just like all these little pieces, they're so important for people to understand the context of where they find themselves. Don't you agree?
I think that it helps a lot of people think that knowing this kind of information would be negative or nihilistic or something like that, which I don't really understand that. I mean, I think Patrick did a talk a few years ago where he kind of talked about that everybody who learns this stuff, you kind of go through a process where you have a period of kind of being surprised, and then you're shocked, and then you might get a little lonely and feel depressed for a while because you're not maybe getting a lot of responses from your friends and family. They think you're crazy or something like that. But eventually you kind of grow past all that stuff. And I don't want to say that you become callous, but you don't feel as fearful. I think you kind of get over the fear of how crazy all this stuff is. And, it can be actually a positive thing because, would you rather be getting vaccines and eating fake food, or would you rather know? Wouldn't you rather know to avoid, potential serious medical issues down the road? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather know not to eat bullshit? I mean, to me, I think it's, it's a no-brainer. It's better to know to avoid the danger than to not know. And also, you can avoid getting wrapped up in bullshit movements. I'm not saying that all movements are bad or they're all fake or every aspect of a movement is necessarily bad, but you are not going to be seduced by some dumb cult, for example, because you know that cults are oftentimes run by intelligence agencies and they're oftentimes fraudulent. So, you're not going to be duped by things that might dupe a lot of people who are not willing to learn about these things. So, knowledge is a good thing. You can avoid a lot of danger.
Right. It's critical to your health, I would say. Just those fundamental things about the way that we've been lied to about food, for example. You could take just that. That was a big red pill moment for me, when I did that bit of research and realized...
Yeah, me too.
Oh, my God. Like, GM... it was like food and medical industrial complex. Like, those ones really kicked me in the butt. And it's like, oh, holy crap, I need to rethink... I need to read everything. I need to rethink everything because I just found out, two of the most fundamental things that I thought were, part of my existence here in America on planet Earth, that doctors were there to help me and were smart. Medicines were benevolent and good, and food is nourishment, and the food triangle is how I should go about that. It's like when you find out, like, oh, wait a minute, you mean I've been poisoned as a young person, and that people I know that are older have died because they've been poisoned because they don't know what I just found out? It's like, then you start down that journey that you just described, Patrick describing, where it's like you almost go through those stages of loss.
Yeah. You start noticing, hey, why does a doctor have a giant gut and sit around drinking Diet Coke?
Yeah.
I thought doctors were supposed to be about health. Do they not know basic nutrition? And then you find out, no, actually, they don't know basic nutrition.
Right. They know nothing about it, and that's why they're sitting there drinking a Diet Coke and still obese.
Take this vaccine.
Yeah.
It's good for you.
Then you realize that the doctors are just glorified pill pushers, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, state drug dealers, corporate drug dealers, exactly. Yeah, so those are, big red pill moments for a lot of people, clearly us here in the boiler room, and I know for a lot of other people too.
Or you can choose to continue believing that the food is good for you and that the message of TV and mainstream media is good for you, and you'll end up like James, 800 pounds, melded into your bed.
That's right, wiping your butt with a 2x4 and a washcloth on the end of it.
Keep watching TLC, kids.
Yeah. Someone else does that for you.
Maybe you can find a lovely caregiver.
Yes, TLC, tender love and care.
A slow assassin.
A slow Kevorkian.
That's what they should call that thing, is slow death, or slower death. I don't know. Oh, that's hideous.
It is, man. Well, okay. That was an amazing icebreaker, Spore. I think we went an hour and a half on that.
Now it's time to start Boiler Room.
My pleasure.
Shall we get into this week's juicy stuff, you guys?
Hey, what about that? Let's maybe if we give examples from everybody of things that you woke up from, scary information that was actually advantageous and fruitful for you in your life. Is that like for me? For me, and I guess with you, Hesher, too, it was food and really waking up to changing my diet, not drinking. For me, in my 20s, I drank alcohol all the time. It was really making me unhealthy. So actually stopping alcohol was a big plus for me. And that was all connected to, beginning to research, basically eating organic. So that was a huge one, altering my views of the medical industrial complex. So those are great examples of things that scare people, but are absolutely necessary if you want to thrive and flourish.
Yeah.
What are some other examples?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go over. Let's ask Jamie. Jamie, how about you?
Well, I kind of have a weird story because my mom would show me conspiracy videos when I was a kid.
Oh, so you were taking the red pill way early. That's right. I recall you telling me that in the past. Okay. Well, even for someone like you and your perspective, I know there's so much you've learned, so there's got to be something you've come across.
When I grew up and started studying on my own, it was about health and food, and I read several books about fast food and how they prepare food, and I did become a vegetarian for a long time and vegan, and not a militant angry one, but it was a weird thing because back then it wasn't as a big a deal as it is now. What else? Doctors. I had a lot of medical problems that I had to figure out on my own because the doctors were making it worse.
Yep, that's a common one. I hear that often from people that are kind of transitioning from blue pill to red pill. I'm just going to go with that metaphor because I want to be able to say it quickly. What about you, Spore? Let me turn your mic back on. There you go, Spore. What about you? You got any big moments there associated with that, or like advice to help people move along?
Similarly to all y'all, is that I was always interested in nutrition and things like that, and I started listening to Alex Jones at some point, and he affiliated the fact that we're being poisoned with the fact that I already knew that there's chemicals in our food, and so that was a huge one. 9/11, whatever was going on with the Pentagon, did not look right to me. That was a big one. And then I also had a health issue too, where it was, I don't know, I probably mentioned it before, but I had a brain tumor for a little while, and they said that they had no idea why I had it, and they didn't ask me anything about like what I ate or what I drank or if I did any drugs. They didn't care why I had it, and it made me very conspiratorial as to how I got it, and I wondered if it was from birth control or foods or what, but what I found out was that there was birth control that I took that was not tested for previous people, and there were other people with a similar brain tumor, but there was never any sort of investigation into it or anything like that, and it just seemed to me like it was a purposeful assault on me.
Yep, sort of a rings of eugenics there, doesn't it? A lot of those experimental drugs that they'll give out to people just, end up screwing people up a lot more.
Another good example, and I don't mean this as a slight against anybody on the show or listening who's in the military, but a lot of people who learn this kind of information who might have bought into like the military propaganda would no longer be duped by propaganda. You know what I mean? So you wouldn't lose your life in some war for some oil company. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a nephew that just joined the military, and it's like the parents, my aunts, all very proud and all that stuff. But to me, it's like, man, too bad you didn't have Uncle Hesher in your life a little bit more. I would have tried to talk you out of that one. This is not a good time to be doing that, my friend. But that's another thing that young people should understand. I mean, I agree, dude. That's a huge life molding decision, joining the military. Yeah. And if you join it because you've bought into the propaganda of the deep state, then that's pretty sad, because you may not have made that same decision if you understood what was going on behind the scenes there. Definitely. All right. What about Randy? Randy, you got any advice for the woke AF?
Wow, those are a couple good ones. Just the whole food scheme or con or whatever that's been going on out there, and then the factory produced stuff and everything like that. Then the whole military industrial complex. I think I probably had different stages of quote unquote red pill to blue pill, or maybe I got it backwards. I don't know. Awakening. One that sort of sticks out with me is the whole banking financial thing. I think when I first figured out that the Federal Reserve, and this is a common thing too, they name things to sound like something that's official or sound like something benevolent or good or looking out for people, but calling the Federal Reserve the Federal Reserve, but it has nothing to do with the United States. It's just a private bank that the United States borrows money from at interest, the ultimate infinite Ponzi scheme. I don't think anyone knows how in debt we are, because you hear there's, we're probably over 20 trillion now, and then you hear people say the actual numbers over 100 trillion. I don't know. It's infinity. It's fake money. We're fake money in debt, literally and figuratively. But learning that whole thing, or sort of looking into that bottomless pit, was
that's a good one. That's a good one.
That was one of my awakenings, you might say.
Being a normie comes with a lot of consequences. If you want to be a normie, you're going to pay for it. And yeah, I didn't even think about like the financial monetary aspect of things, but you could be totally duped into some bullshit 401k investment type thing that wipes you out. A lot of people lost money in 2008, from the housing collapse.
Yep. Exactly, man. And then they make movies in Hollywood almost rubbing it in people's faces. Yep. About how they did it and what scumbags got rich doing it and didn't have to pay for it in the end. We all had to pay for it. So,
and if you're already
huge one,
and if you're already in the, the donor class elite club, you didn't feel it. It was just like, oh, look at that. And where we flying to vacation for the next 3 months? I'm bored of Monaco. You know what I mean? They didn't feel it. Oh, little Richard and Johnny are gonna have to do summer vacation for 3 months in Italy instead of the half year through all of Europe. Whatever the hell whatever bothers them. I don't know.
yeah, definitely. All right, Funk Soul. What about you, man? You got one?
Yeah, I got a couple there, you guys. In line with what you guys said, but to go back slightly, you mentioned about like normies. What came to me was the whole thing about transhumanism. It was John Lam Lash of the whole Archontic stuff, who said that regarding people, to quote him, about people who accept normies who would accept transhumanism. Well, they're already as good as dead. So that dovetails back to what Jay was saying about how it's consequential in being a normie in those respects nowadays, with people just being so gullible and just taking frickin' anything on board. But same as you guys, Randy hit the nail on the head there regarding the banks and the wars as well. That was a big thing for me, and also the medical industry complex, vaccines, SV40. That was a huge one for me. How people are tricked and duped into feeling they're bad parents, bad individuals, bad human beings for not wanting to put monkey viruses into their kids, and how this sort of stuff can travel down generations and kill a lot of people through cancer and whatnot. That was a big black pill for me. And the fact of what is still in those crappy vaccines today, that people are just going, oh well, I don't want to be one of those anti-vaxxer people, so I'm just gonna take it and kind of hope for the best. And I guess that ties into the last bit, which is the overall strong lack of awareness that is with people today. That's something I've been aware of for quite a long time throughout my life, and also the levels of apathy which still exist with a lot of individuals I know. They're just so accepting of many injustices, on a personal level, locally, nationally, internationally as well. And for want of a better word, they don't really give a shit, and they're not really wanting to speak about it. So, like you guys, quite a few things there.
Definitely. So we got a pretty good list here. List of pitfalls for normies. Vaccines. Definitely want to stay away from those, and you don't need to take our word for it. You just need to do a little bit of digging. Medical industrial complex, good one. The whole concept of joining the Army for maybe the wrong reasons. Full respect to anyone that wants to join a military force for the right reasons. There are some benefits, for sure, but I wouldn't do it. Not for no way, man. Not with what they're doing with it these days. Besides, I think we need our warriors here at home these days anyways, not out fighting elsewhere. No disrespect to anybody in the service, but things are bad here. More bad here than they are elsewhere. The food, great one. That's a great one. The banking scam, good one, Randy. Inability to do critical thinking and logic, and apathy by Funk Soul there. And I guess the one that I will add into the mix here would be... Boy, you guys got all the good ones. There's another really good one. Education. The education system,
that's a good one.
Is bad. Like if you're in a position where you have to put your kids in public school, especially in the blue states, you really have your work cut out for you. You have a lot of work cut out for you to counteract the indoctrination that is going to be instilled in your kids' heads going to those schools. And unfortunately that goes for most all the private schools, charter schools, all that stuff. So there's a big one there for folks with younger kids. And for older kids, I would have to say be very, very wary of going to college. At this point, they have degenerated into a debt collection agency, and just to further indoctrination. It's like willful indoctrination at this point to go into one of these universities, especially if you don't have this kind of context in your life that we're talking about here tonight. So unless you know exactly what vocation you want, and you know what kind of degree it requires, and you also know your defense against the dark arts of leftive regressive degenerativism, then don't sign up for that debt. There are way better ways to make your coin in this day and age on the internet than there is in going and sitting in a college without a purpose.
Yeah, that's one I fell into, was thinking that I had to do things the traditional route, be it teaching at a university or something like that. And I think I'm already doing a lot better on my own, than I would have been trying to go through the outdated dinosaur system, now that we have the internet.
Exactly, man. I mean, I was in that same boat. I come from that same, generation where it's like, you kind of just have this knowing because it's beat into you as you're growing up that if you're going to be successful, it's going to start with graduating high school and then going to college, and that's just it.
Yeah, and all the people who ram that into our heads were idiot baby boomers who don't understand anything.
Exactly.
So they're the most brainwashed generation of all time, and they still haven't understood the implications of the internet. And I don't think that most of the boomers can even be awakened, so to speak.
Yeah, it's increasingly rare to find them. They're out there, and there are definitely more of them showing up, but you're right. That's a really tough nut to crack right there, because that generation at this point really feels like they know it all. They're like the 12-year-old we described earlier.
Worse than anyone. Yes, worse than any.
Yeah. So it's really hard to get through to them. They take CNN as gospel, which at this point we all know, all the spoiler rumors and boiler room listeners know that means they're taking fake news and propaganda as gospel.
You can't get a boomer, for the most part, 95% of them, to understand Operation Mockingbird controlling the mainstream media.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get that basic 101 point across.
It's just an impossible nut to crack. I don't know.
Because they grew up with Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather, talking on the TV at night.
Yeah, that's some hard propaganda to crack. I mean, it's really interesting the way the propaganda has changed. Now it's just like a flood. A flood of...
Well, it's info babes, but what do you think it'll be in the future? Will it turn into info pangenders? Will it be these... will it be these amorphous androgynous blobs? Will they be the new telecasters?
Avatars? Will it be an avatar of a freaking rainbow unicorn talking to you? Yeah, it's nuts.
That's exactly...
You'll get your news from a clopper every day.
No, I think that's actually... I think Randy's onto something there. I think that's exactly what it's going to be. I mean, I saw a thing cross through the feeds this week about in Japan, dudes are getting married in virtual reality weddings to anime characters.
I saw that too.
Little cartoon chicks with, big eyes.
Divorce is cheap.
Their wedding day outfits like a tuxedo with goggles.
Yeah.
And they're alone.
No, they strap a cell phone to your face and... There's some sort of VR kit. I don't know. Maybe it's the good one. I guess it's Japan. They probably have the nice VR sets over there. But But I think you're right. In the future, it's going to be really hard to say because we're going to be in the virtual zone by then. So who knows? Maybe nobody will leave their houses anymore. Everybody will be at home wearing some sort of VR suit with all kind of devices attached to it. And
you could think that you are marrying a gorgeous VR babe, and then you come to find out 10 years later that it was James in Kentucky wearing the goggles.
Because he needs to support that eating habit, so that's what he does for a living. Yeah.
Second life.
And you're stuck with him at that point. It's just you and James.
I had a flashback to that movie Hardware, I think.
Oh, I remember that one.
They got that.
That's a good one.
That guy looking in on people.
Good old Hardware.
That's a good 80s apocalyptic B movie. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that is. I was watching that after watching The Warriors and stuff with my buds back in the days.
Well, when you talk about the stages of being awake, when you reference that Patrick Henningsen talk, all the subjects you hit, as you start looking from one to the next after you sort of like study one, then you're like, oh, what about this? What about that? And you start seeing it's everywhere. It's practically every industry. If you keep working your way up the food chain, it's all sorts of problems and issues and turmoil going on in the world. Is all, as you were saying earlier at the beginning of the show, planned, designed. I mean, I've got 101 versions. I've heard you on different talks, Patrick on different talks, read this, that, and the other. Can't get into the details. I can't recall them off the top of my head. But, I mean, you start seeing all of this stuff, and you start looking around, and that is another level of, like, whiskey, you know, what the flip. You start looking around, and you're like, man, everything, the entertainment industry, right? I mean, that thing is just, I know that's your swim lane, Jay, but that thing, Jay, but that simple, you know, area of work, the entertainment industry, the movies, you know, music, going back to Laurel Canyon, going back before that, going back to people like, you know, Houdini and different black and white characters. The guy who made Metropolis, for example, that guy had to be, you know, he just didn't come up with that out of the...
No, a lot of the German expressionists were totally into the occult and whatnot. So absolutely.
Yeah. The whole controlling mechanisms and what's the word? Something synchronicity,
full spectrum dominance.
That's the one. Full spectrum dominance. That
Bam.
whole, you know, concept right there. When you start seeing that, that's sort of what's going on. That's another.
Yes, like people who think, oh, I'm going to be the next Jay-Z, I'm going to be the next A-list actor based on my talent, as if that's how you become the A-lister. No. It's not about your talent. For example, you know, like Taylor Swift or somebody like that. She is a great example of somebody who has a wealthy family who was able to put millions of dollars into her career to make her into a pop star. Yep. She did. I'm not saying she has no talent. I'm just saying that that's not the way that entertainment or the music industry or Hollywood works. It's not based on your talent. And this is why, you know, many girls who move out to LA or something, they think they're going to be a big actress and they end up like whores in porn or something like that. That's because those industries are not what they appear to be.
Yeah. Taylor Swift, you might even be able to take back what you said about her singing ability. I ran across one of those YouTube videos where they pull all the backing tracks off of someone live and you just hear their isolated microphone, and she was one of them. It was so bad.
Really?
Yeah, it was really bad.
Wow.
Yeah, but her dad or her grandpa, someone's a bigwig banker, like in one of the big name banks. And yeah, that seems to be it, man. That seems to be it. And then you go,
see, a lot of these people have big money behind them, and people don't know that, or they're idiots and ignorant, and they think that you climb the ladder through talent.
Yeah, there seemed to be maybe you could count on one hand like actors who that might be the case for, and they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
I think I was just watching a history of Charlize Theron today. I'm interested. It piqued my interest because I always figured she was one of those that, you know, you're describing, but she, from what I saw today, and I'd never looked into her past before, you know, but
she's from South Africa, isn't
she? She's from South Africa, and she had like really rough stuff happening around her. Her mom killed her dad with a shotgun in front of her when she was like 8 years old or something like that. So she's got this crazy backstory, and she's had like brutal injuries, and she was her story, and I don't know if this is true or not, but her story was that she had an outburst in a bank after having to quit her career as a dancer, and a production assistant or some, you know, Hollywood, the typical story, some Hollywood schlub was behind her and said, oh, you got to meet my agent. And, you know, then she took off from there. But it made me wonder if maybe she was one of those legit cases. But it's like those stories are intriguing because they're so rare. Like, you never hear that about most actors. You hear the stuff we hear like Taylor Swift. Oh, her dad's a banker.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be over, like, you know, like no one ever.
Oh yeah. No,
but like take somebody like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp was just some dude from Kentucky,
right?
And I don't think he had any big money behind him. But I think what had to happen is that he had to go along with certain things, you know, to be at a certain level. Same thing with Megan Fox. The story is supposedly that she was found in some trailer park in Kentucky too. They seem to find a lot of people out of Kentucky, but so I think, yeah, I think that even if you aren't Hollywood royalty or don't have a lot of money behind you, you're going to be expected to do certain things to go into the ranks of A-listers or whatever.
Yeah, you got to conform to it. And speaking of Charlize, I mean, she just disgusted me recently in the news, doing similar stuff that we were talking about in the beginning of the show with, dressing her child up or, pushing gender identity politics on like an 8-year-old or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Harrison Ford is another one who I believe sort of came up just regular. I think he was almost. Yep, he was almost. He had a few bit parts and then was doing carpentry. You're right, and then I guess Lucas or someone remembered him, or so the story goes. But I think Hollywood likes taking those rags to riches ones and pushing them out there like, hey, look, if you have the right. Almost like the American dream thing, right? If you have the right determination and heart and skill set, you too could make it big. When really it's definitely a who you know industry. I don't need to live in Hollywood proper and try out for movies all the time to know that one. And but a lot of times I think they've been caught sort of editing people's past too. You'll remember this one, Jay, from Scenes from the Laurel Canyon, and it's a music person, but the way that Cosby, Stills, and Nash met up, they just ran into each other on Hollywood Boulevard or something like that, or Sunset Strip, driving one direction, driving the other one. Hey, look, it's Neil Young. Hey, look, it's whatever. Hey, you guys want to go jam tonight? I mean, they made it like these guys just bumped into each other, but one of them was way from Canada. Lived somewhere else. The other guy lived somewhere else, and then they just sort of converge magically.
That's a great point, Randy. Yeah.
Have you guys seen Jay? Have you seen Becoming Bond?
No. What is that?
This what we're talking about here reminds me of this. I just saw it recently. It just came out this year, and it's like a documentary on George Lazenby, who's the guy that played James Bond in Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Right.
It's really interesting. I started watching it, and it sucked me in, and it's making me think about this whole topic, where it's like, okay, yeah, we've got, like you said, all these people are bought and paid for the most part, you know what I mean? They're basically dreamed up in an ad agency or a PR agency or some nepotistic, Hollywood Jewish set or something like that. But then there's these outliers that actually do make it, people that stand out and are recognized for their talent or their look or their voice or whatever, and we just had some good examples of them. And George Lazenby is an interesting one because he was an Australian car mechanic, and he landed the role of James Bond having never acted a day in his life. So he just this guy, he actually kind of lived like a poor man's James Bond. He was he started out as a mechanic as a young guy, and then he decided he wanted to sell cars. He saw the guys in the lot, flinging these expensive cars, and he said, I could do that. So he started selling cars, and he got really good at it, you know what I mean? So he became very charismatic, and he worked as a model at some point. And he's kind of living the high life, rubbing elbows a little bit because of his modeling career. And he, a friend of his, knew some casting agent, and he walked into the casting call for James Bond, the 1969 movie, and he lied to him, and he told him, that he'd been acting and all this and that, and he was somehow able to convince, I don't remember the whole story, but anyway, somehow the director was just I want that guy, and he did the movie, and he was wildly popular. And after the movie, he wanted to grow his beard back out and just be himself again. He didn't want to go and do Johnny Carson dressed up as James Bond and talk with an English accent. And he wanted to do that so much that he refused $1 million signing bonus and a contract for 6 more James Bond movies. basically because they wanted to buy him. They wanted to make him sign a contract, like a slavery contract, and they'd be able to tell him when he could grow a beard and when he couldn't. And he just gave him the big middle finger, and he paid for his own trip to go to California and do the PR journey so that he wouldn't be beholden to these companies. But I thought it was a great example of even if someone comes into it naturally, what this guy's faced with after doing one movie, his first movie, is essentially $1 million bribe to sign a contract that says, okay, you guys own me now.
I had no idea about the backstory of George Lazenby, but Daniel Craig will oftentimes make these statements that he's sick of being Bond. He was so tired of it because that's all he ever heard every day for years. Now, I'm sure the money was good enough for Daniel Craig that he was able to stick it out, but he did seem to talk that way. I don't know how sincere that was, but he would be like, I'm so sick of being James Bond. But now that makes sense because I guess the contract comes with all these things you can and can't do.
Right. Yeah, they want to control you. Even back as early as 1969, they want to control what you look like when you go out to do promotion.
You can't even wear a beard. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was really interesting. It's a good watch. I think it's on the Hulu app right now. Definitely recommend that one. I thought of you when I saw it. I don't know if you've been on since I saw it, though, so I wanted to tell you about it, and I just thought it was really synchronistic the way it worked into the conversation right there.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. I always enjoy Bond Arcana. It's never ending. You can always learn.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that it was new. Also, I thought when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, Jay's probably seen this."
No, I hadn't seen that.
And I saw the date on it, and I was like, "Oh, nice! It's brand new." So yeah, okay, cool. Enjoy that. I'll put a link on the show page tonight so everybody can see that film and all the details on it. I'll stick it
from James from Kentucky to James Bond.
Yeah,
we've really run the extremes of the paradigms here, haven't
we? Yeah, we have, absolutely.
Besides movies, pop culture, just think of music too, though. Nowadays, I don't know what music's high point may or may not have been, but a lot of the stuff now I have a place in my heart for like techno or what they're calling now trap music or electronic dance music or whatever. I get it, but I mean the popularity and some of the other stuff around it that you see at some of these like festivals and stuff like that, it's pretty, I don't know, to me it's sort of like mind-numbing. And you talk about occult symbology and all that. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, like they are. Like they're trolling people. Okay, maybe, yeah. But I mean, they got flat out Moloch looking owls. They got pyramids, cathedral looking things with it's crazy.
What was that one called?
Something in Atlanta.
Yeah, Jay and I did a show about, I can't remember what show it was, but I watched this one festival, and it was basically this giant demon on a screen telling you from the beginning of time that we have used music to mind control the masses and get them to follow Satan, and everyone's cheering. And it's just, and they go into secret societies and, calling forth demons and possession, and it's the whole theme of the entire festival is the story of them mind controlling people with music.
Wow.
I can't remember what it was called, though. I wish I could remember.
Well,
then you just got the tons of people out there in the audience just rhythmically just like, oh, yeah, just having the time of their lives. It's funny.
If you think of the title on that later, send me a note, and I'll be sure and put a link on the page for it. I'm curious to know what it was. I think the last big festival I went to was Coachella, and I'm never going to go to another giant festival, I think. I mean, I don't know. It's just, and especially the way they're doing them now, they're chipping people, and they've got, they like to use these venues for false flag events now, and, the way the security's gone, the whole police state, security state at concerts is just a huge turnoff to me because, I come from a generation of concert goers where everybody was trusted for the most part. We might have got just a couple of pats, on each hip on the way in, but this whole thing with now, they want to take the lids off all your drinks and, look through your backpack with a flashlight and grope you excessively. It's just like, sorry, that's not the way I roll at concerts. It just makes me want to rage on the security people before I even get in there. And then it's like, you want to get out of one of these festivals. It takes forever to get in and out of there. It's just this total nanny state thing. I just can't get into it anymore. I don't care how good the lineup is. Like, you couldn't pay me to go to Coachella at this point. Plus, they're charging people an arm and a leg for these things. It's ridiculous. They're also sending undercover officers in there doing trap people. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're doing the same thing at that Burning Man festival now too. So, Randy, you got to be careful at Burning Man this year.
I did live in Reno while I kind of wish I went to one. It would have been about 10 years ago or whatever, but just to say I went and see the difference probably just in 10 years of what's happened to that thing. But
I'm not a goer, so I can't say on firsthand experience, but I know some goers, and it's changed a lot over the years. And now it's like a elitist event, pretty much. I mean, you got to have I don't even know what a ticket costs. They've gotten ridiculous. They're into the $1,000+ probably.
Yeah, it probably started just people getting together, and then now it's like it's got a VIP section and all sorts of stupid stuff, man. I bet you it does. It's like you could have the Burning Man experience at the VIP section. I mean, it was. I'm pretty sure it was never originally conceptualized to have a section off VIP section, or people with like basically driving in mobile homes and living in palaces for a couple of weeks and then leaving. It was meant to be a little bit more 70s-ish probably in its conception, I bet, or just like a hangout where do what thou will or whatever. But I don't know. It's still probably that, but in a more corporate way too, I bet.
Yeah, they're all getting all those movements. Oh, not movements. All those festivals are getting ruined by state intervention. State actors, corporate actors, they're all getting absolutely ruined. Well, what do you say? You want to talk some fake news for a minute, or what do you guys want to do?
I think I'm going to go ahead and dip on out. Getting a little tired here. I got some work to do.
All right, Jay. Well, hey, thank you to you and Jamie.
Yeah, great to have you both.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Yeah. All right, there they go, everybody. You can get Jay's book over at jaysanalysis.com. There's links to get Jamie's books